Hey guys, I'm Rick, and that is one big pile of bricks with our amazing guest, Jono from Season 1 New Zealand Lego Masters. Woo!
G'day, everybody. Hey.
Jono, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, mate. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm pretty excited to have you on Lego Masters. Now you can talk shit about Dan.
I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't. Oh, I would. Let me put it this way. I wouldn't say anything online that I wouldn't say to his face.
How has your life post Lego Masters been?
Surreal. I think the word that popped into my head the first time I walked onto the set with the roller doors and the smoke and all the lights and the cameras and the action, it was just I turned to someone next to me and said, "Pinch me, like pinch me. This is some sort of dream." And I think over the last couple of years, it's just continued to be surreal.
Because it's
It's
been a
weird.
while since you recorded.
It was 2022, the beginning of 22, yeah.
Yeah,
Or
wow.
21. No, it was 22.
That's hard because everything gets mushed together. Because I know they filmed season one and season two back to back.
Yeah, well, they did. It was January 22. It was that we started filming. We filmed for 6 weeks, and then they had a 2 week turnaround, and then they filmed season two. So Dan and I and the other guys from season one had to wait 3 months, I think it was, until the show aired. But the poor guys from season two had to wait a year and 3 months.
Wow. I guess
I had
they
to
had
keep
to
it.
because,
We had to keep a lid on our secret for 3 months, right? Those guys had to do it for over a
yeah.
year. I don't know how they
Well,
did it.
because of the whole lockdown thing, because New Zealand was in lockdown, I guess it was easier just to film it bang bang.
Well, that was one of the weirdest things about it is because we were in lockdown. We were in like Airbnbs scattered across Auckland, and when we
Oh,
went on
wow.
set, we were the only ones that weren't masked. Everyone else had COVID precautions on, so we were in this weird little bubble that everybody you looked at, you could only communicate through their eyes, and you weren't really allowed to talk to anybody because everything was hush hush and secret and stuff. But it was a
Yeah.
real, very surreal experience.
So do you enjoy the fame that came with Lego Masters?
That's a good question. It's not unenjoyable, put it that way. I'm very fortunate in that Lego Masters is one of the most wholesome, one of the most coolest things you could ever be famous for, because everybody's got a really positive story to it, or a positive connection to it, and there's not a lot of negativity around it. So
Well,
I,
and
I think,
I think because it is so wholesome and, like the judge is nice, everybody's nice.
yeah. It's the weird thing is, it's like people come up to you and they think they already know you, and they don't know where they know you
Yeah.
from. And that's really cool because everybody treats you like they know you, like you're a mate or something, and that's really special, and that's worth it. There are times when you kind of like just want to be. I just want to be myself, and I'm like, there's someone that
Yeah.
points. But that's getting rarer and rarer now that it's getting further and further from it.
Well, I think that's the hardest thing, right? Like, especially with Lego Masters Australia, there's like, oh God knows, what are we up to? We've just finished season
Season
seven.
six,
Six,
is it?
six, yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
But the rumor is we're getting season seven.
Oh, of course you are.
Well, that's the rumor, so we'll see how we go. Because I spoke to
Well, yeah,
Brickman
I would
yesterday, and
say
he's like,
so.
"Oh," I was like, "Oh, is there season seven?" And he's like, "Oh, I won't know until about mid-year." I said, "Oh, that's fair enough."
Well, it continues to be incredibly popular, so I'd imagine it'd be foolish to stop it now. And besides,
So
I want to see. I like their Australia versus the world, but I'd like to see a Lego Masters All Stars. So it's like contestants from every country all come together for one show.
Well, Mel from season one US Lego Masters was pretty ticked off because he was like, "How can it be versus the world when there's like only a small amount of teams?"
No, I think that the Lego should get like a team from Oz, a team from New Zealand, a team from Japan, a team from America, a team from everywhere, and put them in and just have this big Super Lego Masters All Stars.
Yeah, because originally there was an idea that was posted by Endemol that they originally were going to film it in Billund and film it at Lego
Oh
House.
yeah,
Yeah, and it was like, oh, that'd be cool because if they did like season one people from each season, because there's like so many Lego Masters shows all around the world. like it could be an amazing show. But I don't know. This latest, I feel bad for the Australian contestants because with this latest season, it was like Australia versus the world. The Australians had no experience,
No, I know,
and you know,
right? Like
it's such a weird
how?
concept.
Like, let's take some Lego Masters that have, because the way I look at it is like being on Lego Masters is like going to Lego University. You know, you think you're good at Lego when you get there. By the time you've left, you're like, wow, I've just upskilled. So anybody that's been on the show has already got an amazing advantage over someone that's just
Yeah.
been seen the show.
Well, you know, I know Crystal quite well. Like I won't spoil it for you. So before I start, 'cause-
Oh yeah, because of course I haven't seen it.
yeah, that's right. So I have to be careful here because I can get myself into trouble, right? Because I don't want to ruin it for you. But you know, like you can see how the Australian people are at such a disadvantage, and it's so hard for them because you're coming into this like, bang, yeah, I'm gonna smash it, and then you go, oh, actually, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and it's
It's
hard because
and it's like watching the caliber of the builders over the seasons as well. Like, because when before we got to be on Lego Masters, they gave us early access to season 3 of Lego Masters Australia, and they said we want you to
wow.
build like this. And it's like, okay, sweet. Hang on, those guys have had 3 seasons to add to their brick pit, and they've got all these extra parts there, but we'll try our best.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So season one, Australia had a real weird thing with Lego. Like Lego wasn't really supporting them here. It was really odd. So like 2 weeks, it was like 2 weeks before they were filming the finale of season one in Australia. I get this weird email. It's like, "Hi, I'm blah blah blah, producer of Lego Masters. Can we buy some Lego?" And I was like, "Can't you get it from Lego?" And they were like, "Yeah, no, we can't get it from them at the moment." I was like, "Oh, okay." So they brought like 20 roller coasters. They brought all this stuff that I thought was really weird. And then once seeing season one, you can sort of see all the parts where they used them because they got caught out. Because what was happening is with season one, everyone was new, no one understood, no one knew what it was going to be like. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
who went into it thought it was going to be like the UK version, which is pretty epic.
Yeah, well, because the UK one was, I haven't seen it, but I've heard it wasn't
Yeah,
particularly.
it's a really weird setup. It's more like it's not more of a competition. It's more of like a family friendly show where you know
Because the
obviously Australia, New
Australian
Zealand.
season one kind of launched the new kind of format for the whole planet, really, didn't it?
Yeah, so if you go around the world, you'll see their set is basically replicated around the world, pretty much the same thing, right? It's
Yeah,
easy to cookie cut it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's rumors now that because Australia is cheaper to film in, that they're going to start filming like US Masters here. That's the rumor. Like,
Yeah, that's
so
why the
yeah,
US Masters over there. Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So I've got a friend who works on Lego Masters Australia. He recently worked on the Bachelorette USA. They filmed that here
Yeah,
because it's cheaper to fly everybody here, film here, than
crazy.
film back in. It's just weird. I don't understand. You
Tax
know.
breaks or something, no doubt.
Oh yeah, there'll be something going on in the background.
But I
Have
think
you?
the
Sorry,
coolest
go ahead.
thing, I don't know, the coolest thing that Dan and I, well, I mean, can't speak for Dan because he speaks enough for himself. But the coolest thing that I found was just how what the story that Dan and I had on Lego Masters and talking openly about mental health, ADHD,
Yeah.
PTSD, whatnot. It really resonated with a lot of people, and like I'm really grateful to have had that opportunity to because I mean Dan and I had already discussed before the show that if any of this stuff came up that we would just talk about it because it needed to be spoken about, and so I
Yeah.
think um, the amount of feedback I got, the best piece of feedback I got was at one of the Lego shows. A family came up to me and said, "Thank you so much for doing what you guys did. It was the only time in our busy weeks that the whole family came together as one. And then you know what? After the show, we pulled out the box of Lego and we all started building together. You know, and I think about it these days. Everybody's working in school and all the things. It was just nice to hear that lovely piece of feedback. And the worst feedback I heard about Lego Masters New Zealand was, you know, the only problem about it is that I had to turn on short and watch the last 5 minutes of Shortland Street before the show started. Anyway,
So so what are you diagnosed with? What do you have? Do you have
oh me, I'm
ADHD?
ADHD. I was well, I've been diagnosed with just depression and anxiety and body dysmorphia for like 3 years, and then I got a guy who was like, "Dude, I think you're ADHD." I watched this Jessica McCabe TED talk. If anybody
Yeah.
hasn't seen it, it's amazing. And at the end of the video, I was just on a ball on my office floor, just weeping because I was just like, "Oh my god, that's me."
Yeah.
And then and so then I pursued the diagnoses. At the time, someone was trying to diagnose me with bipolar, my GP, and GPs can't diagnose you at all, but
No.
they were misreading me. And so when I got my diagnosis of ADHD, it was a catalyst to disrupt my life in a way. I think going on ADHD meds, it kind of brought out some of my more autistic traits, which I haven't not officially been diagnosed with, and that
Yep.
caused a lot of people around me to kind of think that I'd changed or to kind of not understand me. And really, what I'd realized is that I wasn't serving my highest or my truest self, and I wasn't
Yep.
happy. I was in a job that I hated. I was in a situation I didn't like. And then when my marriage exploded, unfortunately, I left, and then I started pursuing the things that really, novelty, like because I
Yeah.
learned as much as I could about ADHD and realized that I wasn't happy because I wasn't doing the things that I loved. And I kind of did a thing of what I love, and I'm like, well, I love Lego, and I love people, and I love performing and entertaining and doing comedy, and I like being on camera. So I moved to Wellington to end up driving buses because at the time, right, I wanted to drive a bus full of Lego around the country playing Lego with people because I thought Lego was really great for mental health.
Yeah.
And so I ended up becoming a bus driver, did some stand-up comedy, ended up on Avatar 2 as an extra and doing
Oh,
random kind
seriously?
of things like that. Yeah. And then it was, I went back to Gizzy for my son's birthday because I promised my kids I'd always see them for their birthday. And it was the 22nd of March. And then 3 days later, lockdown happened. So we went into the COVID lockdown.
Wow.
Um, and so ended up back in Gizzy. And then after the COVID lockdown, I was diagnosed with lymphoma, which is blood cancer.
I'm aware because my
So I went through
father
six
passed
months of
away.
chemo. And then that was my last chemo round was in June of 21. And then in August, an ad on Facebook popped up, said, "Do you want to be a Lego master?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So excuse my language.
Doesn't matter.
And
It's all
I
good.
called Dan up and said, "Do you want to do this, bro?" Because I was thinking, who could I go on TV with that's got a bigger mouth, as big a mouth as me, and is prepared to call me on my bullshit, right? And be directly, brutally honest with me, and was an amazing, talented builder, and it was good on, was good fun. And
Yeah.
I'd met Dan. I'd never built with Dan at that stage, but we'd met at Lego shows and we'd hit it off, and we'd just been mischief buggers running around, declutching things or kind of, just being gentle tutus, right?
Yeah. 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 So
And so I
I.
thought it would be good value. And yeah, so it was just I really needed a pickup, and that was August, and then we applied. We sent in our stories, and then we got an audition. So I had to fly down to Wellington to get an audition, and I actually got to audition with Charlie and Ollie from season 2. In our very first audition, we had an hour to build how we'd first met, and we had Robin the
Yeah.
Brickmaster there, and we got filmed as a little thing, and then we got on the show, and that was yeah, what, less than 6 months after I'd applied. It was
Wow. That's
really quick.
amazing.
But one of the caveats about the show was that if you had a company or whatever that you wanted to mention on the show, then it had to have been pre Lego Masters. So the day that I signed my
Ah.
contract for Lego Masters was the day that I formed my company, Grab Life by the Bricks.
Smart. That's actually really smart.
And actually, the last word, like because I'd been practicing, Dan and I were trying to drop our business names into the show, right, to try and get it on air.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and he did it. He managed to do it in the 8th episode, I think. See, like Between the Bricks, because that was his company name at the time. And
Yeah.
I managed to do it at the end when, spoiler alert, Di said we got third, and I said, "We said, what do you want to say?" I said, "Everything is awesome when you're part of a team and you grab life by the bricks."
Smart. Good way to do it.
I had to get it in there, and I knew they couldn't cut that bit.
Well, and that's exactly right. So, touching on lymphoma, my father passed away from that when I was very young. My brothers passed away from it, and my sisters had it, right? So,
Holy
like,
shit!
yeah, yeah. So it's a
So yeah,
very,
well, so you know what it is then. There's
yeah, yeah.
50
So,
different types of blood cancers. Did you know that?
yeah, I found that all out because I've been tested and stuff. Because that's what happens. Because when it runs in your family, they test you
Yeah,
for it,
they
whatever.
do that.
And similar with the ADHD stuff, I was diagnosed late last year, and it changed my life.
Totally,
Like
eh?
you're just like, and then I get comments like people saying to me now, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" They're like, "You're just really quiet." I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm medicated now." Like
Communicated, like keep my fucking mouth shut.
it's exactly right. It's like your brain now thinks before you go, "Bleh," and then it's like, so you're very careful on what you say now. Like it's really funny. And I'm like, this is what it
Oh,
feels like to supposedly be normal.
well, I don't know. Is there a normal?
Well,
I
that's the
mean,
thing,
come
is there?
on. I don't know. I've looked outside lately, and normal doesn't look pretty fucking normal to me. Sorry, excuse my language.
That's fine. I
Am I
always
allowed to
mark it on
swear?
YouTube.
You guys
Yeah,
swear. You guys invented the
I,
swearing, didn't you?
I always mark it on YouTube, not safe for kids, so it's all good.
All right. I try not to. I mean, because it was part of what Grab Life by the Bricks does is goes around playing Lego with people, and we end up tend to do mostly neurodiverse people. And because one of the things I learned about neurodiversity, right, is that say you get an idea in the back of your brain, so the occipital lobe, which is your visual cortex, and you
Yeah,
need to get it to the front of the brain, which is your boss part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. Um, in order to get there, the neural pathways to make it, sometimes you need the motor cortex in the middle to come online, and that's by fidgeting, right?
yeah, yeah,
So when we
yeah.
were told at school, sit still and pay attention, it's like, which one do you want me to do? I can sit still or I can pay attention, but I can't do both.
Pretty much.
And
And it's
so
very
what I find
interesting.
with like learning more and more about neurodiversity, it's found how much Lego is actually valuable to it, and that
Yeah.
how much it's helped me throughout my life just by enabling me to actualize the visual plans that I have in the back of my brain by using my fingers and my hands to make it.
Well, and I think that's what slowed down my brain. That's why I attached to it so much, and that's why I think we all like it because it makes you slow down.
Oh my god, yes. And there's the things like opening up a bag and then that rummaging sound that you get, all
Yeah.
those little things.
And I think it's, if anyone thinks they have it, I think it's, if you have the opportunity, it's very expensive here in Australia to get diagnosed. In the end, it costs about $2,000 because you got to go
Wow.
through you got to go through all the rubbish processes and seeing people and paying exorbitant prices. But if you can
Well, you
get
can
it
you do it
done,
that way
like,
here too, or you can go through the public system, but the public system is quite taxed.
yeah, I got a
Like
friend
takes a
of
while.
mine who's quite ill, like mental health ill, and it's just taken him years to be seen properly. And it's just like in New Zealand, it's been insane. And I said to him, dude, just come to Australia. Like, we have co-share stuff. Just come across. He's like, I probably should. I'm like, yes, you should. Just to like look after yourself.
Well, what I find the biggest challenge really is like if you look at the World Health Organization around what they say about ADHD, right? They say that it's only an impairment when you interface with society. And I'm like, on what day do I not interface with society, right?
That's every day. It's just like,
And so part of that initiative is my partner and I have recently we just started a business weekend thing, and we've been working on an initiative called Blind Spot Busters, which is helping neurodiverse people navigate the systems. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like the systems weren't designed for people like us.
no, they
They were
really weren't.
designed for a particular narrow scope, and I kind of feel like a lot of the problems that we have are generally how we navigate these systems. I've always found that if I get someone to explain the information to me in the right way, I can pretty much tackle anything and I can kind of work my way through it. But there's a
Yeah.
certain type of education that I require, and
Yeah.
schools don't provide that.
I was just called a little shit all the time in
Oh, me
school. That's the
too.
thing,
Oh my
and
God, yes.
I think that's the common denominator. I think
Go
no
to the
one really
principal's
actually
office,
realizes.
like Bart Simpson, right?
Always, always, and everyone
I love The
like,
Simpsons for that reason because that it shows the different presentations of ADHD and neurodiversity. Because you've got
yeah,
Lisa, she's like highly autistic and ADHD and highly studious and really quiet. And then you got Bart, who's kind of the opposite. And then, of course, Homer and Marge, they're all, showing the different forms of neurodiversity.
well, and I think a big part of it is too. I didn't realize until I was diagnosed and medicated how much of an effect I had on people around me.
Oh, exactly. Well,
How
and you
much of a
don't,
toll it takes on people. Like, it's just, and
well,
like people have spoken to me now and like brought it up, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, and they're like, no, no, I'm just letting you know like how much it's changed you for the better.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is I kind of explain it to people. Imagine, you're going through your entire life and you've got a Toyota Corolla handbook, right? And then you get 40 and you realize that you've been running around with a Yamaha motorcycle and you've been reading the wrong bloody instruction book.
Yep.
And then when you get diagnosed and you get medicated and you get the right systems with the exercise and diet and stuff in place, then you kind of feel like you're reading from the right instruction manual. And
Yeah,
and
that's
and it's like, I mean, I'll use the car metaphor because there are things that you can do in a car that you could do on a bike, but there are also things you can do on a bike that you just can't do in a car. And it's not
yeah.
because there's anything wrong with the car; it's because the bike's different. And I find that the neurodiverse brains are just, we're wired different, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing, because we're the ones that often, we're the curiosity seekers. We're the ones that, like, you know what? It's not really cool the way that it is. Let's make something different, or let's try something new. And that's why I love Lego, right? Is that if you buy a set, especially the 3-in-1s, and you kind of build it, and you're like, I don't like that, you pull it apart and you build it back new, right? You don't set it on fire and
Yeah.
incinerate it. So I feel like our systems could be rebuilt better if we got
Well,
a few, like, visionary people in the position to rebuild our structures.
and I think too, like one thing that I discovered, like in Caroline, my partner, we were like before I took the medication, like I got diagnosed and I hit like felt like I won the marathon because I hit all the targets doing more than 100%, right? And you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
awesome. And I sat down and we were at work and it was like just before our Saturday shifts. I sat down and I was like about to take the medication and I just started crying and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm scared it's going to change me." Like, and she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, it's hard, right? Because you're so used to, I dealt with nearly 40 years of being a chaotic human, a human tornado wherever I went.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
like, is
Yeah.
it going to change me?" And it's like, I
Like the
realized,
Tasmanian devil, right?
oh, pretty much, man. And then, like, I took the medication. I had a cry. I took the medication. And then, like, over the course of the day, like, Caroline was like, "You right?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "It's just like, you're quiet." I said,
I
"It's the
know.
first time in 40 years my brain's been quiet." Like, and
Well,
it's
see, what
so
I
weird.
found, the thing that I found during my life is that a lot of the trouble I got into was stimulant seeking. So
Yeah,
I'd be seeking
totally.
booze, or I'd be seeking, drugs, or like, um, you uh, exciting activities, or skydiving, or fast cars, or
Yeah.
all that. So I found that a lot of that was just, as soon as you start taking the medication or realizing what, then you don't kind of yearn for that anymore. There's no, like, and you can sit still with your thoughts and compose yourself.
Well, and that's the thing. Like like I still fidget a little bit, so I always
Oh,
carry a
me
Lego
too.
minifigure with me. So I'm
Non-stop.
always playing with it because then it stops me from fidgeting too much. Yeah, like I got Emmett, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, but it's just like I don't know. I think if you're concerned about what it's going to do to you, all I can say is give it a try. Because my counselor said to me, "Look, it takes up to 3 to 6 months for you to feel normal,
Yeah.
because you're dealing with a 30+ year chemical imbalance in your brain." She says it's going to take a while for you to start feeling okay with it.
I don't like the way they talk about it as a chemical imbalance. I don't believe it's a chemical imbalance. It's kind of more of it's a shortage of uptakes for serotonin and dopamine in the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah,
It's a kind
because
of a, yeah.
it's the
It,
ultimate
it's it's
dopamine
it's an
chaser.
old way of saying it. It's not entirely accurate. That's why I'm a bit fussy about it. But
Oh no, no, totally. And
but
as
no,
soon as
for the rest of it, absolutely right. I mean, the it's like, putting glasses on for the first time and going, "Oh my
yeah,
God, I can see clearly." You know, one of Dr. Edward Hallowell, one of my favorite Canadian doctors, who talks very much and written a lot of books on ADHD. He says it's like having a Ferrari engine with bicycle brakes. And then he says,
wow,
he
yeah,
says the medication isn't going to magically fix everything, but he says, it will help you learn to apply your brakes better. And he tells everybody he's a brake specialist. And that's really what it is. It's like, you're an overactive mind that really needs to have the brakes put on occasionally, so we can help navigate through the things, so we don't overshare, or
yeah.
there's always that
Oversharing.
line. Do you ever find when you were a kid, it's like, oh, there's that line, oh, Jonathan's crossed it.
Oh mate, I was crossing that until I was medicated. It's just like it just
How do you
never
know where the
slowed down.
boundaries are unless you push against them, though?
Well, and that's the thing. But now now I'm like not different. I just am more aware. So it will take me
Yeah.
like the brain processing it is better now. So like instead of me going, "Hey, you're an idiot," I'll be like, "Hey, maybe it's best you don't do that." Like it's not like me like
Well,
giving an
that's the
insult.
worst part about it, right? Is that we've grown up with these brains, and everybody's, well, not everybody, but society's kind of treated the quirks or the peculiarities of the way that our brains work as deficits of character, and they're not. And so we develop a lot of shame and a lot of guilt around a lot of our personality.
Yeah,
And it's like we didn't realize that we didn't realize we were doing that kind of thing.
and I think
But
that's
I
the big
think
problem with me is
I'm
like the
grateful that, like,
depression.
one of the things that I'm grateful for at the moment is that we're moving away um, from the mental health model and moving to a brain health model, right?
Yeah,
Because, like, really, when it comes down to it, if a person is not regulated, so if they haven't had enough sleep, water, food, all the things, exercise, then they aren't themselves. And if you're not regulated self, then your behavior is out of character completely, or can be, right? And so really what we want to be trying to do is trying to treat our brain like we would our heart. You know, it's like if there's a heart disease, we don't already, we don't, throw the person to the thing, oh, you have to go over there and do that. It's like, it's not a deficit of character. It's I don't know. It's like, what am I trying to say? It's about positive brain health. Like, mental illness is such a stigma. And it's not about that, because everybody has a brain, right? So if we call it brain health, then it's not about mental illness. It's not a illness. It's like, but if you got heart illness, you don't get vilified for it, do you? Oh, don't
well
talk to
that's
him. He's had a triple bypass, you know?
well, and
And
I think
it's the
that's a big
same sort
part
of
of it.
thing, right?
I just one thing I've discovered now is that now the people that I've clashed with in my past, or even now, or the people that I don't agree with, are generally people that are on the spectrum or
Oh my
ADHD.
God,
Because
yes. And then you find out that if you can learn to communicate through the spectrum, you probably get along with the person.
yeah, you go, oh, I actually don't mind this person, like,
Well, because
and I
I
think
look
that's
at
a big
Dan and
part
I,
of it.
right? Dan and I are two vastly different people in a lot of ways. He's very, very ordered. I'm very, very chaotic in a lot of ways. And a lot of our dynamic and the clashes that we had on set were our two different approaches to our neurodiversity and the way that we were growing up, right? And at the end of the day, um, I acted like a shit. He acted like a shit. But if anybody was to go into that sort of pressure cooker environment with cameras and pressure and all, and not act like a shit, I would be surprised,
Well, and I
right?
think that's a big part of it because it's
And it's like, when
the
you're in that
system's
moment,
designed.
you can either look at the behavior the person's exhibiting and go, oh my God, that person's being an asshole. Or you can go, oh my God, that person's in distress. And is there something I can do to help them?
Yeah,
And that's what it comes down to, is having that kindness and compassion and thought for another human being, that it may look like they're trying to be violent, aggressive, like Stitch on the TV, on the movie, right? Lilo and Stitch.
yeah,
He's not meaning to be a little shit. He's just in that mood, and that's just what's happening. So how do you pull that back and kind of assess what's going on and go, well, can you pull them back from that mood? Can you help them, like, reconnect, or can you help them re-regulate? Or, this is the thing, is a lot of these people were probably shunned when really they probably needed a hug.
yeah. That's the thing, right? And I, I find it interesting now because the connections that I created when I was undiagnosed are now stronger now that I'm like diagnosed because I understand boundaries,
Absolutely,
like
absolutely. And you understand
boundaries
where
and
you would go, where the relationships were falling apart, so you can not go in those places again.
yeah, and it's like it's made my life like a million times better because it's like
But one of the
I go,
things that
oh,
I've kind of stubbornly managed to do is that throughout my life, I've kind of been, you kind of know your tribe. You
yeah,
meet that group of friends, your best friend. Doesn't matter what you do, you just click and you understand each other, right? And you look past all that bullshit and see the nugget of beauty inside. And I think that's what we all need to start doing, is instead of looking at the behaviors people are exhibiting and going, "Oh my God, that person's such a," and it's like, well, they're not. They're just going through some shit. Their dog might have died. They might be on the spectrum. They might be having suicidal ideation, right? they might be having trouble paying their bills. You can't judge someone based on their behavior without understanding their story.
That's true. That's
And
100% true.
and I think that's one of the things that I've certainly learned, because I mean, after Lego Masters, watching yourself in the third person is very, very confronting. Like, I remember watching the first episode of Lego Masters, and there was this moment where I got the first claim to fame of being the first person on the show to throw a tanty and walk off. And I just, and I did it right. I saw my face. It was the face of my youngest son. And I always hated when he pulls
Wow.
that face at me. I'm like, I wonder where he fucking gets it from. But it's like really seeing yourself in the third person when
Yeah.
you're not aware. Some of the behaviors you exhibit, you may not even be aware of.
Well,
And
that's
that
the
was,
thing, you know,
and
like,
so that was even, so both Dan and I, having gone back 2 years and still looking back on it, you can sort of see how you've evolved and how being on the show has been a catalyst for that evolution. Like, as a person,
yeah.
it's been really amazing, eh? And the number of conversations that I've had around neurodiversity, like with yourself and other people that have recently diagnosed, and just being able to share these stories of connection and empowerment, right? Because I'm not, like, that was the beauty of it. Dan and I weren't sitting on TV going, woe is me. We were like, fuck it, we're here, we're going to do this, and we've got this shit going on in the meantime, but we're still going to do it. We're not going to let it stop us from doing what we want to do, right? In
Well,
fact,
and
it's the
that's the best
superpower that's
part.
enabling us to do it.
Well, and then when you're medicated, all, you know, like ADHD people have this unique ability to do a million things at once, but never get them all finished. I've discovered now that I can still do that, but now I can actually finish most of my tasks, which is amazing.
I can only finish them if I'm super excited about them still. I can, like,
Really?
I don't know. It depends on the medication. I've been experimenting with different medications, including some of the non-legal ones. And I've noticed that, like, for example, Ritalin, it's good if you want to polish 50 doorknobs because it's a really boring, repetitive task. But if you want to create something beautiful, I find it very difficult. And
Yeah.
then, so I switched from that to Dex, because I find it has a slightly different effect on me, and it allows my more creative side to come in, so I'm
Yeah.
less ordered. Um, and then, of course, there's the other colorful ones that are non-legal. That I mean, I wondered, because I mean, I've experimented with a lot of things over my life, and I've always wondered why. And when I got diagnosed and understood, and then realized that all these chemicals like caffeine, alcohol, they've
Yeah.
all got the same kind of basing, and they're all just kind of different branches, and they have different effects, right? And they're all mimicking chemicals that are already in your brain. My favorite is cannabis, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you can get it in prescription in Australia and New Zealand now, and they're looking, and it's been widely used for ADHD and autistic people in Canada and in the UK,
Yeah.
because it
Wow.
helped. Because, have you heard of the endocannabinoid system?
No, no, no. Go ahead.
Okay, so the endocannabinoid system is the system that governs all the other systems in your body. So it's the one that's responsible for mood and appetite and all the other things, right? And the reason it's called an endocannabinoid system is because you have cannabinoid receptors in your brain and every other cell in your body.
Yeah.
And one of the things that cannabis can do is help you regulate your ECS. Now, the reason why I got into this is because when I was going through chemo, they gave me anti-nausea medication and it wasn't working. And so I
Yeah. That
went
stuff
back
never
to
works.
and I got given some edibles by some green fairies, and I started putting on weight. So I was going through chemotherapy. I went into my GP or my oncologist, and he's like, "You're putting on weight. How are you doing this?" I'm like, "I can't really tell you." But really, what I was doing is, because the endocannabinoid system is responsible for mood and appetite, the cannabis was helping my body regulate itself and then heal itself.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
basically, if say for example, if you've got a predisposition to heart disease in your family, right? If your ECS is in equilibrium, chances are you'll never get that disease.
Yeah.
If your ECS tips out of alignment, that's when you're more likely to be susceptible to the disease.
Ah,
Oh,
yeah,
quick
yeah.
fact. Do you know there are cannabinoids in breast milk? Human breast milk
Really?
provides cannabinoids. When a
I don't
baby
want to
is
know.
when a baby is milk drunk, no, seriously, when a baby is milk drunk, you've seen a baby that's kind of,
Yeah.
it's because of the cannabinoids, because it's helped the ECS system come into that space and it's allowed them to sleep.
Wow, that's amazing.
And this is the thing that I've been finding as I've been going down the rabbit hole of neurodiversity and brain chemistry and all this sort of stuff over the last, 6 years now, is that there is so much about the brain and what we put into our brains and our bodies that we are only just discovering now. And the more science that goes into it, the more we're coming back with some amazing results, right? And that's what I mean. New Zealand, Gisborne here, we've got the best fMRI imaging system on the planet, almost. We've just got a brand new system built, and they're doing brain scans for ADHD, for PTSD, for concussion. They're also doing psilocybin experiments to see what's happening inside the brain. So we're very fortunate here to have that sort of stuff going on. But yeah, it's a very interesting time to be alive. I kind of feel like we're living in the future.
We kind of are. Well, on that note, Jono, thank you so much for joining me for a podcast. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking for. I was actually supposed to be coming over to the Sydney Brick Show in 2 weeks' time, 10 days, but unfortunately, my plans crossed. Sorry, Amanda.
Yeah.
I said I was going to come, but I can't make it.
Yeah, but Melbourne's better anyway, so it's fine.
Oh, is it? When's that one?
January.
Well, I've got to come over to Oz at some point anyway, because I want to meet the Lego Masters, because that's one of the coolest things about becoming a Lego Master is you immediately go into a face group with 400 other Lego Masters from around the planet.
And then you'll understand the pressure of the show. Oh
my! It's interesting hearing the different versions from different parts of the planet. Like, because it's all the same thing. They all have different ways of approaching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I tell you what though, the Lego Masters would have to be the most wonderful, intelligent, creative, eclectic group of people on the planet, just like most other Lego builders, right?
There's so many Lego Masters. Like, if I wanted to interview all of them, it'd take me 10 years. Like, that's how many.
Well, what are you doing for the next 10 years?
That's exactly right. Well, the next one I think I'm doing, I've got Corey from the United States that I'm going to try and pin down.
Cool.
I'm speaking to Robin. I think Robin's coming up soon as well. So it's like I'm sort of chipping him away
slowly. The Brickmaster.
The Brickmaster.
Oh, that was the funnest thing. If I can say one more thing about the show. So during the recording of the show, we weren't allowed to talk to the hosts because they couldn't give us any information about potential upcoming things and whatnot. So it was all very professional until the end of the last day, right? And then Robin came into the green room and all the pretense was, and it was just like sitting there with your favorite AFOL, right?
Yeah.
And so he came in after the show, and we just sat there for hours, just talking about everything Lego, all the things that we've been holding on to for 6 weeks that we weren't allowed to talk about. But it was such a delight. He's Robin such an amazing human being.
He's just an amazing person. That's why I'm looking forward to recording with him, because I have a special spot for him because he was the first LCP, right? So like he
started it all.
One. That's exactly right. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
We were so privileged to have him.
Oh, he's just amazing. Like, sorry, Brickman. Brickman's good too, but Robin's pretty good.
Yeah, and I loved our host. Sorry, Hamish, but I think Di's a better host. Love you, Di.
Well, on that note, thank you, Jono. What I'll do is when we jump off,
thank you, Rick. Absolute pleasure. Anytime, mate.
Put all the links to all your socials and websites and everything you
need. Oh, just on that note, here. Unfortunately, because I'm neurodiverse, my website currently looks like a shoe store. But grablifebythebricks.nz, and I've managed to make it look like a shoe store. So I'm working on that.
All right, thanks, man. Have a lovely rest.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, dude. Bye.
Take care.